can't help thinking that somewhere in the universe there has to be something better than man. Has to be.
The world he finds out in the galaxy will challenge every idea you've ever had of civilization. A planet where man is the lowest order of living things.
They adapt, and they survive. The function of all life is survival. The seed is planted.
Welcome to Glowburn, a podcast dedicated to the Mutant Crawl Classics role-playing game.
This is a test. This is only a test.
Welcome to Glowburn, a podcast about the Mutant Crawl Classics role-playing game and old-school post-apocalyptic adventuring. I'm Judge Mark.
I'm Judge James.
And I'm Judge Forrest.
On tonight's episode, we'll be completing our review of the core classes with a review of Manimals and Plantients. Well, gentlemen, I guess the first things first, let's head down to the shelter.
Let's go.
Down in the shelter.
Welcome to the shelter. This is where we highlight MCC and DCC gaming, running, playing, writing, reviewing, so on and so forth. And let's start with Judge James. What you got going on, James?
All right, well, a month has passed in my new town here in Glen Mills, and since I ran my free RPG Day one-shot at the Gameskeep in Westchester, and it's turned into a full-fledged mini-campaign. So for our second event, I ran Sky of Crimson Flame by Thorin Thompson, which is a Dungeon Crawl Classics module. And if you haven't checked out this adventure, stop what you're doing and go check it out. It is just such a joy to both read and play through. So I was a Kickstarter backer, and I've been sitting on it for a little while, and it's just a really cool adventure. First off, it's got this awesome like Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Ash Williams adventure feel to it. Like it just has all the feels of that. You've got like baby heads with wings coming after you, books flying around, lots of like loose flesh piles that are dangerous. One thing that I will say that your players will hate you for is that Thorin Thompson really likes permanent ability drain. So if you're running this as a 0-level funnel, that's one thing because, who cares with those characters? But if you're running it for higher levels, it's gonna hurt. This one's gonna hurt you. Also been running our Purple Planet campaign that Judge Mark's in on. And we started the last session with The Rock Awakens. I don't think they knew that was coming, but also a good time there. Little dangerous adventure, Who did I kill? Did I kill someone?
Yes, we killed Paul's
Kith
character.
We didn't do it.
Well, you did. You did. I mean, we kind of did because we weren't exactly playing smart. I mean, it's like, these snakes are really challenging. Let's do it again.
But I will say it's been months and months since a character has died in that game.
That is true. That is true.
I think it's just ongoing proof that higher level games in DCC, and I still think less so in MCC, I think you die faster in that game. You can survive until you get killed on the Purple Planet. I think the last thing I have going on right now is I'm doing this 30 days, 30 miniatures challenge, where I'm trying to really work through my pile of miniatures. I have a lot of Reaper Bones. I have a lot of Dark Sword miniatures, anthropomorphic bunny rabbits that were my daughters I was painting, and a lot of Reaper Mouselings I've been working on. And I know I did the Bones 4 Kickstarter, I think. So whatever the Bones Kickstarter was from last summer, I think it was Bones 4. And that stuff's coming next year. So I want to clear my pile out. So if you go to my blog at livingforcrits.com, you'll see A lot of painting going on. We're up to day 25, I think, day 26 as of today in painting. So that's where I'm at. Judge Forrest, what are you playing right now?
Well, the AD&D ongoing 2nd edition campaign keeps going. I have to share this. Every once in a while, you pull off something as a player, and you just have to share it. So I have a high-level thief. His name is Rin. And Rin and his party were up against Cass, who was the bodyguard of the Lich Vecna. If you know anything about Greyhawk, this is a very bad dude. Basically a demigod. And we were just getting our butts handed to us. And I was desperate. Rin was about to kick it. He was next hit, he was dead. He had a potion of gaseous form. And so I thought, well, I can take this potion and try to slip out of here, except the room was such that there were no doors. There was no way out. So I thought, well, okay, I can fit in small spaces. So I typed a message to my DM and I said, so could Rin, as gaseous form, could he fit in, say, a nostril? And he dug through the rule book for a little while and he types back, yes. So Rin is currently somewhere within the inside of Cass, waiting to come back out of gaseous form. It'll probably kill him, but I'm okay with that. That's a great way to go, I think, as a player. So we'll see what's in store for Rin. I don't know.
That's great.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what undead digestive juices are like, but anyway, we'll find out soon. I'm hoping, it'd come out, one dagger in each fist and just like gut the guy from the inside out. But hey, we'll see. Also, continuing in an online Call of Cthulhu gangster scenario, I'm playing an undercover cop. Everyone else is playing a Latino gangster. They don't know I'm an undercover cop, so it's been a lot of fun. Later this month, for my birthday, I'll be testing a Call of Cthulhu scenario I'm writing. It's a folk horror investigation set in 1970s England, and it's saturated in what's called hauntology. And if you don't already know what hauntology is, trust me, it's not what you think it is. So go explore it a bit. I'm not going to rob you of the experience of learning for yourself what hauntology is, but it's intriguing. Hauntology, yes. And it's not what you think it is. Also, last week I spoke to Reed Sanfilippo, and I will be working on a Crawling Under a Broken Moon supplement starting right now.
Ooh.
I think we're looking at a November Kickstarter. This is going to be a bigger project. He and I are both working together on one of the books. There's more than one. And yeah, I'm pretty excited, but got to get pen to paper. But I've got all kinds of ideas floating around in my head. And lastly, I am very much looking forward to getting back into a certain Mutant Crawl Classics campaign, which I've been missing for many months. So with that, Judge Mark, what are you doing?
My list here is short by comparison, so I haven't had a chance to do much gaming. It's summer. My Monday group is on hiatus, in part because I had wrapped up the previous campaign and sort of needed a little bit of a refresh break, and in part because it's summer and it's really hot here in New England and swassy, and I don't like to have to sit in front of a computer without an air conditioner on. So other than that session of Jim's Purple Planet campaign where I got to do something cool, I haven't done any other gaming. That said, we have kicked off a little experiment in that game where I am playing a Manimal using the MCC rules in the DCC adventure. And man, I'm kind of having fun with that character. There's definitely times when I miss Floyd Pink, my warrior, but the wonky powers that I got are kind of neat and let me do some weird stuff. I mean, I stepped into some quicksand and I just let my legs grow longer because I have plasticity mutant power. Mm-hmm. My current level of result on that, because that's one of those permanent powers, is like I have the ability to stretch my limbs up to 30 feet. So it was like a 15 or 20 foot deep pit, and I just kind of was like, whatever.
All I know is it's like whatever you rolled up was like the antithesis of The Rock Awakens.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say. Like every power you have literally just read can figure out or work through every challenge in this adventure module without much problem. That's what it is.
And I definitely haven't read that one by accident because I don't even own that one. But it's been
it's a good adventure.
It's a good test drive because there's been a lot of talk as far as how well balanced the two games are against each other as far as intermingling, and at least for this purpose, I mean, it seems like a mutant character is holding his own perfectly fine against DCC situations. Now, whether or not the flip side is true, we'll have to find out with some, I don't know, we'll figure it out. I'll come up with a way to throw some DCC peons into the MCC campaign. We are literally 2 weeks away from the first day of Gen Con, which I'm sort of anxious about because running 4 4-hour games over 4 days, and I'm starting to feel like I'm not prepped.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
Because you're not.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's what it boils down to is I haven't read the adventure yet, but I'm running the same thing 4 times, so I don't feel like I'm in that much of a world of hurt just yet.
Well, if nobody else at the table has played it, you don't have to worry about it, right?
Well, there's that too. And the cipher system is super easy to GM because you basically just need to come up with a number between 1 and 10 for any given situation. And I'm pretty sure I can do that. In gaming-related writing, my alphabet of outer beings crossed the halfway point.
Yay.
So I'm 13 letters down, 13 to go, and I've actually already got the next 2 or 3 either written or in draft form. And if Daniel Bishop gets his way, this will see some form of print when I'm finally done.
Nice.
Cool.
My goal isn't to get this in print. My goal is to finish it and actually have at least the 26 letters. I've already got 1 extra entry, but if I get to that end and I'm feeling good about what I've produced, yeah, I will see if I can't find somebody to help me get this thing published, whether it's, a zine type format or in a more real book. I don't know yet. And lastly, this is sort of really unrelated, but so Netflix has been advertising this movie called How It Ends, and it is a in-apocalypse movie. It is like concurrent apocalypse. So the beginning of the movie starts out and you kind of get to know the characters for, maybe 20 minutes. And then something happens off the West Coast and everything goes to pot. And the movie is a road trip that the main character and these 2 main characters make across the country. Well, one's looking for his daughter, who happens to be the girlfriend / fiance of the other. And it's a really kind of interesting movie because they never explain what is happening. There's just weird stuff going on, but they never tell you what specifically is causing it. And it's all very small scale because it's their activities and it's their experiences, and you don't see the larger, broader picture of whatever's happening across the rest of the U.S., let alone the rest of the world. So it's very sort of intimate in that regards. If you've got Netflix and you're looking for something to watch, I think there's worse things out there. You should check it out. It's kind of cool. But that's it. That's all I got at the moment.
I was going to say that if we need to find a way to introduce a non-MCC character into MCC, just one of these days where I can get myself together, I'm actually showing up at one of your events, Mark, we'll have to bring a Lankmar character over for an excuse for me to talk about DCC Lankmar on an MCC podcast. I will note that as of recording, Lankmar dropped today, and I'm instantly infatuated, and it's been a few hours, and I have much envy for our Spellburn family over there for getting a chance to chat about that game.
The Spellburn hosts are definitely going to have a field day, I think, from what I've heard of so far.
They are.
Their plates are going to be full.
I think what with crazy dimensional barriers and whatnot, we can probably find a way to make that happen, Jim, if that's what you want to do.
I think we'll have to work that out at some point.
Yeah,
we can do that.
We can make that happen. Okay, should we listen to some Voices of the Ancient Ones, guys?
Let's do it.
Yep.
Voices of the Ancient Ones.
Okay, well, it's time for Voices of the Ancient Ones, and this is where we give you the incredible, amazing, and absolutely fantastic Glowburn community an opportunity to contribute to the show and send in your questions, comments, and other glowing words of wisdom. And this month we have one enormous and fabulous letter from Dan Stevie, and we started it last month, but we're going to finish it this month, and it's huge, and which is fantastic. We love that. But we're going to probably break this up into pieces. So don't worry, Dan, we will get to everything you are adding. So here we go. My phosphorescent friends, congratulations on an entertaining podcast about an RPG that is now finally available to the masses. The wait appears to be well worth it as I hold the excellent new tome in my hands and prepare to break it in shortly. I will be the first to point out that my thoughts in the game so far are uninformed by my actual play experience, and that my opinions will most likely shift once I've actually truly experienced the game. The closest I can claim at this point was playing 2 Fossorians in America games at GaryCon this year. Rest in pieces, Growlhowl and Growlhowl Jr. But for now, you get my uninformed Manimal rant. That's perfect. This is the perfect show for an uninformed Manimal rant.
Yes, absolutely.
I was actually disappointed by the initial read-through of the Manimal class for a few reasons. Most of these are due to my experience with another RPG that focuses fully on the subject of Manimals, which would be Palladium's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness, TMNTOS. I know that Mark has claimed a love of this game as well, and I'm curious as his and the other judges' thoughts on that matter. I know as you all have reviewed other classes, you have identified ones that don't get as much love as some of the others, such as the healer class. I think that this class is another one that may not stack up as much as it could be. So let's break there for a second.
Yeah, so I will cop to a rather deep and abiding love for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness, and actually probably more so for the serial number removed after the bomb, which was Palladium's post-apocalypse mutant animals game that was also sort of their backdoor way of making sure that they kept the mechanics relevant when they lost the IP for TMNT.
Yep.
And while I haven't played it recently, and in fact, I tried last year for Gen Con, I was going to run a TMNT game, and I got about a third of the way into character generation for I think I was making 8 pre-gens, and I quit. I said, no, I cannot do this.
That's real work.
Yeah, I mean, it was so much, and while I was having fun with the mutant animal part, when I got to having to generate skills and I just, it was just too much. So, I loved the game when I was a kid, and I have a great deal of fond memories from running that in middle school and high school, but I don't know that it's something I could go back to and use that system again, unless it was as a player and somebody else had done all the work for me.
Yeah, I haven't played TMNTOS since 1987, and I'm afraid to go back and try. I loved the books. The thing is, there's like any of Palladium's stuff, it seems there's just so much detail. Yeah. I mean, just an literally excruciating amount of detail. Yeah. Yeah, the character generation is just it's a lot like real work. So anyway,
and there's those the Palladium has this weird thing where you can basically go to the gym as a skill and get attribute bonuses, and I never when I was playing it as a kid, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I can make up for the fact I have crappy stats, because as a kid I didn't understand that characters don't need to be awesome all across the board. And now that I've been playing a lot of DCC and MCC and getting used to the idea of a character with half to 3/4 of his stats being garbage, I scratch my head entirely at this concept. It's just well, why would I do that? You know?
I'm curious, James, have you played a Palladium game ever?
Yes, I have, but not really. No, I played. It was one session, and a friend of mine, he tried doing a blend, a hybrid, if you will, of Palladium and D&D 3.5.
Ooh.
Oh, Lord. And I was a dog boy or something like that.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Which is about as close to a Manimal as I've ever gotten. When I ever wanted to play games that had crazy animals in them so far, I would say my experience is all Savage Worlds, where there are quite a few Savage World settings that have animal people. And, that's... But rules wise, it's a piece of cake, and yeah. So no palladium.
If you like tables, Palladium's got them. Let's just put it that way.
It does have those.
Pass.
Yeah.
But it also has way too much work. Like you said, there's a lot of work to make a character. And then
Right.
and that makes you then be that much less okay with a character death, because it's like, oh, now I have to do all that work.
Yeah, exactly.
You put all that effort into it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly, because it's not a bad system. It's just involved.
Yes.
And if you put that much investment of time in it, you want to get something out of it.
all right, let's jump into the next section of there's several sections to read here. So next section of the question, of the letter. I think the rules as written are limited in a number of ways. All Manimals have essentially the same build in that they are bipedal, have working hands, can speak, and are otherwise just furry humans as far as their stats and capabilities go. I greatly enjoyed TMNT OS's approach at building characters using BioE, BIO/E, I guess it's BioE.
That is
I don't know
correct.
what that means.
Yep.
Which allowed you to start with a base animal and then modify them from there, giving them human-like traits, hands, bipedal legs, speech, and human appearance, adjusting their size, and even giving them psychic powers using this point-buy system. I love random character generation, and I'm acutely aware that few players are going to want to spend time tediously point building out their zero-level characters just to have them slaughtered in a funnel.
Absolutely.
So that's a good point. I mean, I think any game where you have a lot of time and effort spent in building your character and thinking about it ahead of time, to be, confronted with real true death in the game quickly, that could sop up some of your fun. That's for sure.
Yeah, that system works really well for a game where you're not anticipating death at every corner. It's too much to ask, and even to do it like very quickly as like a random thing prior to a funnel wouldn't really work. So the whole BioE stands for biological energy, and it's basically like evolution points. So little helpless creatures have a lot of it, and larger, more powerful creatures have very few of it, which is also part of the problem because it ends up leading to a certain amount of sameness. But like a mouse will have like 90 points. And if they want to be able to walk around on two legs, they spend 10 points. And if they want to have like hands with, fully opposable thumbs and stuff, that's another 10 points. And then I want to be able to speak a little bit, but I don't mind if I sound a little bit goofy. So I'll spend 5 points on partial speech. And I don't care if I look like a mouse, so I'm going to spend no points on looks. And that leaves me with certain points left over, which I can then use to either make myself bigger, like physically larger size, larger mass, or I can start doing things like buying those psychic powers that he was talking about. While great for the way the Palladium system worked, it's not something that would work with MCC. It's far too involved for a game like MCC.
Sure.
Now, I'm trying to remember, Mark, was there a leveling system there? I just can't recall.
There's a level system, like once the character is sort of built, you get like, I don't remember. I don't think there was actual classes. I think it was more like you just took a bunch of skills and whatnot and you started at level 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a leveling system. The leveling system did not interact with the mutation BioE system, however. So it's not like, 5 levels in, you could gain enough juice to be able to buy a new psychic power or,
Right.
grow better hands or improve your ability to speak in a human voice or whatnot. And the game also did some goofy things, like if you didn't want to spend points on either partial or full human speech, then you had to buy the psychic power for like limited telepathy. Like it refused to let you play a character who couldn't communicate. Which, I mean, that's easy enough to say as a GM, like, hey, I don't want, you don't have to follow that. But it's just kind of like, it didn't trust its players.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So moving on. Back to the email here. Manimals share the same physical and mental mutations as the mutant class rather than having their own set of abilities, which I think might detract from their beastly nature. This instead adds what I would have to call their weird nature, which of course is very much in line with the rest of the MCC game. In TMNT OS, all animal features were related to the type of animal being played. So you could build out a badger with wicked claws or a bird that was capable of flight. Can a bird manimal fly? Is a badger's claws going to be any more awesome than a mouse's teeth? not according to rules as written unless the character lucks out and winds up with a mutation that somehow provides these features. In DCC, wizards and clerics have different sets of spells. I don't think it would have been too much to provide a separate set of manimal abilities that more closely mimic the physical qualities that a manimal would bring to the table, rather than shoehorning them in with mutants. Clearly, many animals should have superior senses to humans, and many types of animals may even have extra senses. Sonar for bats, tremor sense for moles, supersonic hearing for dogs. How do you handle these things at the table for your manimals? Well, I'd say, sometimes you are lucky, just like how, Mark's Shih Tzu has 15-foot long legs, because that's how every Shih Tzu is.
Yeah. I mean, it's an African Shih Tzu, so it's got it's giraffe-like.
It's a cross between Shih Tzu and Giraffe-tzu or something. I'm going to wrap up his letter here, and then we can move on to fully answering here. I prefer to run or play in a DCC MCC game over Palladium game any day of the week due to streamlining of game rules and mechanics that DCC provides over the original Palladium rules. I look forward to you all proving me wrong on my assumptions about the Manimal class as written, as I will probably prove myself wrong once I get to play it or run some MCC for myself. I acknowledge the MCC class rules are about as complex as the DCC class rules, which I also thought were too light and had some misgivings over until I played it. So I'm hopeful I'll have the same epiphany here with MCC soon as well. Keep up the great work on the podcast, and may your witchfire glow bright, Dan Stevie. So yeah, a lot to deconstruct here.
Yeah, there is a lot in this letter to decompile. I think that Dan does make some salient points. I think that if you have a party that has more than one manimal, they are going to feel somewhat samey. And to one extent, that's okay. But to another, maybe it's not. I mean, I think it's going to depend partly on the players and what the expectation is. The thing is that obviously, and as Dan says, he prefers the DCC MCC rules over the TMNT Palladium rules because they are streamlined and they're simpler and they're more straightforward. I mean, I don't know if DCC is, rules light or rules simple or rules minimal or how exactly you want to call it. But the rules that TMNT uses to get to that level of, each animal feels very much the way it does are super mechanically complex. And so you can't have your cake and eat it too in this instance. You can either be mechanically complex such that every animal is going to be able to feel different from each other, or you're going to have to sacrifice some of that for a simpler experience. And I think there is a happy medium. I have an idea. It's part of my mutagenesis. I don't know if it's the fix, but I think it's a fix.
I think, one point and one question that Dan has there, how do you handle these things at the table with your manimals? Dan brings up a good point in that, in TMNTOS, your species has some intrinsic traits that are reflected in your character. And it can be, emphasized or de-emphasized, modified, what have you. And I like that a lot. The thing is, the way I would handle that at the table is, and this is going way outside of the rule book, I would say that there are those built-in abilities. I mean, if you're a bird and you have wings, you can probably fly. I mean, duh. You're built for that, right? That's the purpose of your entire life. But I would treat them kind of like occupational skills in DCC. It's not to the point of anything spectacular, but a clever player with a merciful judge will allow some room to play in there, I think. I think if it's done right, you have to have some trust between the judge and the players, but I think if done right, you could use some of those inherent special abilities. Special, yes, exactly. Special abilities. And I like that. I think that gives some kind of fun interplay between the judge and the players at the table too.
Yeah.
The other thing about that is I like and have in the past in other systems played something that was not anthropomorphic. I mean, a mutant sentient amoeba is just awesome. Give me that every time. It doesn't have to necessarily look like a man. to work in the system. You have to have people who are experienced role players, I think, by and large. Although, not necessarily. I think somebody coming with a fresh approach could actually probably shake things up a little bit. But then again, I like, my games shaken, not stirred. So,
I gotta say this. I think it really depends on your judge and your campaign that you're in about the way this is going to go. And I think as you as a judge, Dan, with your players, decide if you want to see Manimals with more meat or more has to do with their phenotype, whatever you'd call it, that's like, like their animalness. And that's up to you, and I think that the DCC and MCC rules give a lot of leverage and leeway to do that. So for instance, I think really easy to add some basic plus and minuses for each. Like birds can fly but have weak wings, so minus 2D on their hit dice. If it's instead of a D7, it's a D5. Or turtles have better AC to start but are slow. So I think you get the idea. Just kind of like with Mark, with Nutbiter, his War Shih Tzu Manimal, there's no rule in DCC saying bring an MCC character over, but, we're having a good time. So if it feels right, let it happen at your game,
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys are both right. Like, there's plenty of room in these games for the judge to put their fingerprint on it, right? So if you are running a game and there's multiple Manimals, or even just one, and the character doesn't feel like they're getting the experience they want, then, I think you're empowered to figure that out and to make it happen via, I like, Forrest's idea of sort of like using the character's species as like almost like an occupation. It wouldn't necessarily be super powerful, if they say that they wanted to, fly 100 miles, then probably that's out of the range of that. But, that gives them some flexibility to maybe glide a little bit, or, take a smaller die if they fell, and, I think, Jim, your idea would be interesting to see implemented, but it's an awful lot of work to do that, right? To figure out all of those different things for each different type of animal.
What I'm saying is it's not something that has to happen, before you play. I mean, that's something that could happen after you've made your Manimal. So, let's say you roll up and let's say you are a fox or something like that. Mm-hmm. And you tell your GM, hey, listen, I want to be kind of quick and nimble like a fox and be able to, run super fast, have a 40 movement speed instead of a 30. How can I get that? Your GM, your judge might say, okay, that's great, but you know what? We're going to make you smaller, so you can't use, two-handed weapons. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I just think it can be an organic conversation. Yeah. Back in the day, I used to always go, when I played like D&D 3.0 and 3.5, I would spend hours upon hours totally gutting or converting rules that now I would just be like, whatever, I'm gonna wing this on the fly. And the game I actually, the game I kind of gave me this new, habit or whatnot is, Savage Worlds, playing so much Savage Worlds, because that's the kind of game where it's like, just do it fast, just make a quick rule and move on, Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, like I said, my sort of solution is the mutagenesis for today, or it's mine anyway. So we'll get to that in a bit. Why don't we?
It's coming. Why
don't we segue into the Great Disaster and talk about Manimals in a little bit more depth?
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
All right.
The Great Disaster.
Welcome to the Great Disaster. This time around, we're going to be talking about Manimals and Plantients. Let's start off with a Manimal. What is it? Here's the direct quote from the book from page 36. You are the inheritors of world, or so you have always been taught. The ancient ones, in their infinite wisdom, gifted your many races with sentience and the power to walk upright and to use tools. While the remainders of humanity struggle to recover from being struck down and brought low by the Great Disaster, you and your mutated kin have been raised up, the better to take your place as the new-wise rulers of Terra AD. All right, so what is the role in the party? Mark, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, very similar to the mutant, the Manimals are somewhat defined by their mutations, right? I think that, again, that goes back to sort of what Dan was saying, is their role isn't defined by their species. It's really defined by whatever random mutations they happen to roll up. So you could end up with like a black bear who is like the worst combat ever. and have like a mouse who's like a psychotic ninja with Wolverine claws. So they are, as written anyway, they're kind of defined by their mutations. They're a little bit more fighty, right, than the regular mutants, but I mean, barely.
You totally stole my words. See, I wrote fighty in the show notes.
Sorry.
and you had to take fighty. You know, I mean, like, I go through how much time I have thesauruses and stuff, look up great words to find
18
fighty.
minutes, right? 18 minutes.
Whatever.
Is it thesauruses or thesauri?
It's thesaurus. Mark's comment to the inside joke there is that yesterday I wrote my show notes in 18 minutes while drinking Yangling at the Double White Grill in Pittsburgh. So,
and then he was gloating about it. He was like, "Boom, 18 minutes."
How much did you drink in that time?
That was 48 ounces.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Just checking. No reason for the question. It's just checking.
Anyway,
apologize for this edit that you're gonna have to make, Hector.
All right, so yeah, we're all good here. This is the gravy of the show. What are you talking about? This is what people show up for.
Well, apparently the gravy of the show is beer, James.
Whatever you want to call it, you know, it's all gravy to me. Anyway, so all right, I'm going to agree with Mark saying that Manimal is kind of fighty because I said it first, and also say, to me, I think the Manimal fills the same niche in DCC that the dwarf fit. Okay, and I'll say it because of this. All right, so if you're a pure strain human or like a human in DCC, you have your choice of 4 classes to be, right? Well, in MCC, just like a dwarf is sort of kind of leaning towards being a more of a combat related character. Sort of, you know, it has the sword and board fighting style and, you know, lucky weapon, all that stuff that warriors have. However, if you roll a crappy strength and crappy stamina dwarf, you know, you're not going to have the same time as someone who has high stats in that. And I think that with a Manimal, you got some more HP, you have natural weapons, so you're going to lean in that direction. Maybe a bit Ranger-ish. Ranger-ish is a word that comes out straight out of the thesaurus, I think, right?
Thesauri.
So, thesauri. So we're going to go with that. We're going to say that you're a mutant with more HP, natural weapons, but less mutations, pretty much.
Yeah, I think the dwarf analogy is a good one. I mean, in my view, the Manimal, depending on how it's played, I think the default is it's going to be a jack of all trades, master of none. Unless there's another Manimal in the party, in which case they can be pretty brutal. You know, the sameness aside, well, that's actually part of the reason that they are so brutal is because of the sameness. So it's interesting team player. And I haven't played in a game where there's been more than one Manimal, honestly. So I don't know how that works, but I'm sure it does. Have you guys had experience with that at all?
2 years ago at GaryCon, there were 2 Manimals, but Warlords of Atos, which is the game that we were playing, does not necessarily prize direct confrontations.
You know, now that I think about it, Mark, in our Ruins of the Tomb of Horrors, there were 2 Manimals.
Was there 2? We never got into combat, so it barely mattered.
There was a warthog and like a cheetah, if I remember right.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but again, no direct combat, so
yeah,
that didn't stop us from dying, but that's beside the point.
We didn't die.
Well, we didn't die. No, it was some the warthog did, but hey.
Yes, all right. Yeah, he wasn't paying attention though. That was his fault.
So then we lost all the benefit of having 2 animals in the party, right? Once one of them was dead. Oh well.
Yeah.
C'est la vie. So let's go through the rules quick. Manimals get 1d7 hit points. They get 1 mental and 1d2 physical mutations. Flip a coin. Their natural weapons they have a bite or a claw attack for 1d4 damage, so you don't have to pack a dagger. They have the pack mentality, which I referred to, where they use teamwork in combat to yield attack bonuses against a common enemy. The Radburn is your usual roll a 1 on a fort save versus radiation, and you mutate anew. They have reverse evolution, or can be the recipients of reverse evolution, where you lose all your mutations and you end up a mere animal. Glowburn, sacrifice the body. You know the routine there. Artifact check. They have no natural inclination for tech materials, and so they start with no bonus. AI recognition. It's one of the worst things in the eyes of AI is to be a Manimal. Yeah. Plantian is just as bad, but still not a good situation.
They start with a minus Nope, they start with a +0.
+0, yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, a -4 on AI recognition. Yeah, I knew it was a minus. There we go. -4 on AI recognition.
Unless they put, like, maybe they could just, like, super glue a face of a human to their face. Like that movie Thanksgiving where the turkey puts a human face on its face and pretends it's, that woman's father.
Precisely like that.
Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That won an Oscar, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. In the Rotten Tomatoes, it won an Oscar. There is one archaic alignment. It is not exclusively for Manimals, if I remember correctly. The Chosen Zoo, or it is, yeah. But they are respectful of other species. Let's put it that way. Okay, so let's take a look quickly at what works for this class. Jim, what do you think?
All right, well, I mean, mechanically, it's a mutant that swaps hit points and natural weapons for extra mutations and crappier AI recognition checks and artifact checks. But you get to live out your animal dreams. So, I don't know, if you like the idea of playing a more anthropomorphic character, if you like the idea of you really like your dog and, you want to, like, live as your dog in a role-playing setting, you can either, I don't know, go play Pugmire, which is pretty much the same thing as D&D, or you can play MCC and be like a radioactive golden doodle. So, I mean, that's what works for this game.
I think golden doodles are already radioactive.
Mine sure is. Where's he at?
That's not fiction.
Mine is definitely radioactive.
So I mentioned the pack mentality earlier. I love that. But again, you need to have multiple players willing to play a manimal for it to work. It'd be interesting if you had a full party full of manimals. Oof. Yeah, that could get pretty handy in combat. Yeah. And natural weapons come in really handy or really claw-y, depending on how you want to look at it.
Or bitey.
Fighty.
Or
Fighty.
Yes.
Smacky. Slappy. Stingy.
Constrictive-y.
Stingy, stabby.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with either of you guys, but for me, it's really just the flavor. It reminds me of that TMNT and After the Bomb, which I did play a lot of when I was younger, and it just makes me smile, right? To be able to have like a sparrow who carries an AK-47 and like, when he gets mad, he like pecks people in the face with his beak. Like, I don't know, it's just pretty cool. Like, mechanically, yeah, I mean.
Well, let's go to what doesn't work, Mark. Why don't you go ahead and finish your thought?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, Dan's email detailed that there's not a lot that sort of separates manimals from mutants, and really, I think this is the bigger condemnation is it doesn't separate the manimals from the manimals. Two players could sit down at a table. One could have a manimal bird. One could have a manimal bear. And there's nothing on the paper for them to feel like one's a bird and one's a bear. Now, that's what the role-playing's for, right? I mean, that's a large part of it. But it does help to be able to say, well, I'm a bear, I get, big bear claws, and I'm strong, and I'm a bird, and I get to fly because I got wings. So, there's that. But I feel like there really does need to be a little bit of differentiation if you're going to have more than one in a party, especially. Otherwise they're going to feel kind of samey. Jim?
All right. The only thing I don't think works for this class, and this is just from my experience with this one benefit, and that's with natural weapons. I've never been a big fan of natural weapons, for any reason or any game. Same with unarmed combat. Unless you really decided to, min-max your character. Like, I remember my GM in AD&D 2nd edition let you put multiple points, like specialization points, in the wrestling or punching rules that were for like the optional rules. Remember there was that chart, let you wrestle people? And so you would let you have like 4 points of specialization in wrestling, which would be +4 to hit and +4 to damage. So next thing you know, the next character in the game was like, freaking Hulk Hogan because he wants to just grapple everything.
Oh, you mean wrestling?
Wrestling, yeah. So, with the exception of the AD&D Dark Sun Thri-Kreen, which got 5 attacks per round, claw, bite, and the bite could paralyze after like 7th level, and you got to add the strength bonus to every attack. I don't know. Unarmed attacks and natural attacks are kind of crap once regular weapons kick in. I mean, how often do you not have your regular weapon with you? It's almost all the time you've got something with you. It's great for 0 level. It's great for 1st level. 2nd level, later on, unless you have more than one attack, I don't know.
Yeah,
Not feeling it.
I mean, clearly you haven't played the TMNT from Palladium, because natural weapons in that were something to be to have fear, because each animal was different in that game. Like, different animals had different levels of natural weapons, but if you were a predatory animal like a tiger or something, you could get claws that did like 2d6 or even 3d6 damage, which was, when you consider that had strength mods, it was at least as good as like a longsword or a broadsword, maybe even better.
Wait, time out. Did you say claws that did or closeted?
Claws that did.
That makes more sense.
2d6 or 3d6 damage. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the one that stood out for me was in the 2nd edition after the bomb. You could be a moose. Yep. And you could get antlers that on a charge did like, I think it was 3d10 damage on a charge.
Yes.
And I'm like, right. I'm thinking to myself like, all right, I don't know how often that's going to come up, but that feels very moose-like. If you've ever seen a moose fight, like 2 male moose fight, like, oh my God, that is some violence happening right there.
Not recently.
Yeah, they're brutal. They're brutal and big.
You should look it up on YouTube, Jim. It's something to behold.
Oh, I've seen it. I've actually have because of my obsession with the Long Dark and my epic battle against the moose in that game earlier this year, I have in my history on YouTube quite a few moose attack videos in there. So
that's awesome.
Nice.
Somebody should do a channel. Yeah, the TMNT mutant animals are pretty ferocious. Didn't they have like a sample of a rhinoceros in there that was just brutal?
There may have been, yeah.
Maybe it was actually one of the bad guys from the original TMNT that I'm thinking of. Anyway, it was just brutal. For me, we talked about flavor. I think that honestly, there's not enough flavor in the Manimals. I would like less anthropomorphism and more animal, but that's personal preference.
So let me ask you about that. So what in the rules as written forces you to be anthropomorphic?
I think it's the fact that, as stated in the original quote about the animals, your power to walk upright and to use tools, meaning you have opposable thumbs, that's just granted. And I guess when I think back to, I'll hark back to the days of 1st edition Gamma World, that wasn't necessarily true. You might not have manipulative forepaws. Mm-hmm. You might have to be stuck with hooves, and that's okay. I mean, that causes you to really have to role play things a different way.
Sure.
And most of the time, I get it. 90% of players, we were all 12 years old then anyway and wanted a power game anyway. So if we didn't have forepaws, or manipulative forepaws, we're like, oh, I can't shoot a laser rifle, so what use is this character? Yeah. But I don't know. Again, I was like 12 years old when I was doing that, so I'm a little older. I'd like to do something a little bit different, a little bit more challenging. And so I guess for players who have some experience in role-playing games, it might be fun to do something different. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess from my standpoint, I realize the sort of flavor text there is implying a certain, level of evolution there, but I could see it being a case where you can play it how you want. Consider like the fact that something like 90% of rodents have opposable thumbs, and a lot of creatures that are, even though they're quadrupeds, like a bear and apes, they can walk on 2 legs for some distance, if not, constantly. So I think you could, take that to a sort of an exception if you wanted to. If you could go extreme if you really wanted to.
I guess I like being challenged as a player too.
Sure.
I played in Gamma World one time. I played a guy who was 18 inches tall, which is just small enough to get stepped on, but not small enough to be able to hide in a hole. And it was a lot of fun. I couldn't really use artifacts. My hands were too small,
Yeah.
But It was a lot of fun.
Were you playing Lil Sweet from the Diet Dr. Pepper commercial?
Felt like it. Felt just like that.
Nice.
Poor Justin Guarini. Okay.
Oh, man.
Mark, what examples do you have from fiction?
I only have one, because I only need one. Say it with me. Teenage
Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I mean, come on. Really? Is there any other one that is saturated the pop culture zeitgeist more than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yes, in post-apocalyptic terms, there is ape shall never kill ape, because this whole thing is Planet of the Apes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Less obvious, do a barrel roll, because what's to say that Star Fox isn't a post-apocalyptic setting that hasn't just moved a bit further towards the futuristic.
Or maybe it's not futuristic at all.
Star Fox is like space fighters. It's pretty futuristic.
Awkward silence.
You think it's space fighters. I don't know. Whatever. I only played one Star Fox game, so I have no attachment to that series.
Oh, okay. I've played quite a few.
What about you, Forrest? What do you got for us?
So I picked a couple of examples from Appendix N, actually. One is Daybreak 2250 AD, where the main character's sidekick is a psionic cat, I think, if I recall correctly. Kind of a wild cat, but psionic. And then there's Hero's Journey, where Hero's mount is a moose horse crossbreed. And he also befriends a talking bear that then fights half human, half animal crossbred mutants. Thundar, the barbarian, has Ukla the Mok. I'm not sure what a Mok is exactly. Nobody knows. It's some sort of bear, ape, lion thingy. And another one that I just thought of, and one of my favorites actually that I didn't write down in the notes, was from Cobalt 60, the crocodile people, the crocodile mutants, which are as dumb as you would expect mutant crocodiles to be, and just very cool. They were all dressed up in like Napoleonic uniforms all the time, and had these hero complexes. Anyway, so yeah, Cobalt 60, the crocodile men were fantastic.
So I don't know how I forgot about this when I was writing my show notes, but the Island of Dr. Moreau, H.G. Wells, it's a 120-year-old sci-fi classic. I mean, technically those are like people who have had animal bits grafted onto them, but they're still people-animal hybrid, and that's close enough for me. And then your comment about talking bear in Hero's Journey actually had me wondering, what if Winnie the Pooh was a post-apocalypse tale, and like Christopher Robin's just the last kid on Earth?
That's bleak.
What if you crossed Winnie the Pooh with Animal Farm? What would Piglet be?
What if you cross Winnie the Pooh with Piglet?
That's disgusting.
Okay, moving on.
So, Plantian. Now, James, you had a question about the pronunciation here, right?
Yeah, so what say you, Plantient or Plantient?
I say Plantient.
Yes. I usually say Plantient as well.
I say Plantient. So I have a little bit of a shh in there. Because shh, don't tell nobody.
Yeah, I guess it would be nice to know where the emphasis is supposed to be, pronunciation-wise.
Well, I mean, I guess I see Plantient sort of like, I don't know, the spelling, like patient.
Like sentient.
Like patient and sentient. Yeah. Sentient. Well, I say sentient, so I don't say sentient.
I say sentient, so yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Sentient, yeah.
But I've lived for like 18 years in Pittsburgh, so I don't know what yins are talking about.
Time to go rat up the house.
Yep. So what are they?
Well, direct quote from page 38, "You are the stoic wanderer, the solid trunk of reason and logic that provides a needed counterbalance to the chaotic animal drives of some of your fellow seekers. You're also a good comrade in arms to have along, because your presence alone seems to mysteriously guarantee better outcomes. Your innate understanding of the delicate balance that all life must maintain in order to flourish makes you a valuable negotiator and a wise counselor, because you are a Plantient." So, all right. So that seems to indicate certain things, but, Forrest, what do you think the role in the party for a Plantient is?
Okay. I'm going to steal some of your thunder here, Mark, I see.
That's fine. That's fine.
Plantients fill the same role as a halfling, obviously, with their ability to donate luck. The thing is, they can't fight two-handed, but then again, Ents aren't halflings either. So, yeah, I mean, largely they'll fill the same role as a halfling in DCC, but they've got some other stuff that I think is can be entertaining. in their own special way.
Indeed.
They're the party's bard. So, I mean, that's the role in the party. I like the reasoning for why they have the luck sharing more for Plantients than with halflings. If there's any one class in DCC that gets a raw deal, I think it's the halfling. Because I love halflings, so maybe that's why. Especially like in like AD&D Second Edition, Dark Sun halflings are cannibals. So I have a soft spot for halflings. But I never understood the luck sharing so much, just that they're innately lucky. I don't know. With Plantients, though, it's like they give out pheromones, or it's like smoke me if you got me. You know, like you can like roll some leaves of yourself off and give it to your friend, let him smoke you. Yeah. I don't know. It sounds weird.
Never gets old.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with the comparison to halflings. In fact, I have written here, potatoes, boil them, mash them, put them in a stew. Yeah, they're kind of like leafy halflings. I disagree that they are bards, though. Because they get physical mutations and they don't really have any other facility to boost their peeps except for the luck sharing, I feel like they're very much more almost like a barbarian, like a lucky barbarian, because they can't take mental mutations, right?
Right.
And I actually kind of like that. I know you were not thrilled with it. Yeah, so well, why don't we take a look at the rules real quick? So D5 hit points per level. They get no mental mutations. They get D3 physical mutations. So basically, the shift from the manimal is that one mental becomes an extra die roll or die step. They also get natural weapons, but these are ranged. They have thorns that they can shoot or throw for D4 damage. They have the fragrance pheromones, which is their luck sharing or luck smoking, as Jim pointed out. They have can't see the forest for the trees, which is sort of like the hobbits or halflings sneak, but it's a built-in chance to hide when they're in foliage. So like if they are in a natural environment, they can kind of just step over behind a shrub and not move, and like everybody's like, oh hey, there's that weird looking tree. They also suffer reverse evolution. If they lose all of their mutations, they become essentially a potted plant. I think Jim Wampler had even said that at one point one of his group got reduced to a potted plant and they were carrying him around until they found something that would get him back. So they have Radburn, just like all the other mutation-bearing character classes. Glowburn works the same as everybody else. They have the worst artifact checks of any class to start with. They actually have a penalty to begin. And AI recognition is just a no. It's just it's impossible. It never happens. There's no AI that is apparently that stupid and or insane. And their archaic alignment is the atomic equinox, which is not a closed alignment. So it's mostly Plantians, but if there are humans, mutants, or manimals who are especially in tune with nature, they have a chance to be accepted into the ranks of the atomic equinox as like warders or something.
So manimals, be careful where you piddle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, especially because it could just be a Plantian who's standing still.
Right.
You know, the best Plantient name would be
Woody?
George Bush.
Oh, that's so bad it's good.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway.
So what works? Jim?
All right. Well, I would say normally I bash natural attacks, but not when they can be ranged. Plus, I like luck sharing. Actually, I didn't realize they could share it. I mean, I didn't realize they could recover it and regenerate it. And I think last night, chatting back and forth, or Mark, I think just noticed your notes in here so they could.
Yep.
If a Plantient can regenerate 2 points of luck per 24-hour period. Per level. Keep this in mind, Plantient players, that when you are rolling your mutations, can't you burn luck for that?
You can.
Yep.
You can.
So burn yourself down to a withered stalk and then like hide under a tree for a while, or under yourself, or under your mom. I don't know how that would work. And then and then you can like have awesome mutation powers. There's a little bit of min-maxing going on right there.
Well, I mean, you can't affect what power you get, only the effects of the power, right? So.
Well, yeah, but some of those powers, you roll high enough.
That is true.
It's pretty dang good.
That is true.
And if you're going to get if you're at level 4 and you're going to get 8 luck points back today, why wouldn't you burn the hell out of that?
No, that is a valid point. Yeah, they regenerate 2 points per level per evening.
Man, that's brutal.
That's crazy.
It is a lot. Mm-hmm. Especially when you consider that the pure strain humans also have luck regeneration.
Yep.
I would have expected it to be either the same as halflings or even maybe slower, but that's it is what it is. You know, the luck sharing is always a good thing. I like the built-in ranged spine attack, especially since I actually have a lot of experience in RPGs of ending up with no gear. You know, getting captured and having your stuff taken away, or, you know, having a situation where you get separated from your camp. You know, maybe there's a battle and then you can't necessarily run back and grab all the stuff that you didn't have on your back at the time. Being transported in a killer dungeon and ending up naked on the other side of it. That's happened. That also. But so yeah, I really like natural attacks in general. The fact that this one is ranged just really kind of adds to that, in my opinion. And then I really like the fact that they get like all physical mutations can really kind of boost their hardiness significantly, depending on what they roll, obviously. But with potentially 3 physical mutations, that 1d5 hit point doesn't seem nearly as endangering as it would on a halfling with 1d6. So, Forrest? Yeah, Plantients are what rangers and druids want to be in that one popular RPG. Yeah, again, there are some things not necessarily in the rules that I think can be leveraged, and I've seen leveraged in my own MCC games, where, for example, somebody sheds some leaves to use for something in particular, whatever that happens to be, or they strip some bark and take a little damage so that they can make a piece of rope out of their skin, essentially. So I think there's a lot of role-playing potential there. I don't know if people think about that because we're so focused on the rules, but there's a lot of cool opportunities there. Yeah. And I really like the can't see the forest for the trees, not just because it has my misspelled name in there, but I just think that's a cool ability. Chance to hide when in foliage. I mean, think about it, the post-apocalypse. Where is there not going to be foliage out except the desert, I guess? When you're in a hot house environment, come on. Or indoors, right? Even then, I mean, if somebody hid behind a potted plant,
there's no foliage in Thunderdome.
Well, there's not yet another reason why that. Yeah. Anyway, no, I'm not even going to start. There's a lot of stuff missing from Thunderdome. So anyway, I like the class quite a bit, but I think again you have to have smart players who are going to really leverage the implied abilities of that class. Yeah, no, that's fair.
All right, so Forrest, what doesn't work?
I don't like the lack of mental mutations, honestly. I mean, there has to be something akin to a brain if it's sentient, right? Something like a brain. So they get the raw end of the deal. And I suppose some of this comes from my, I listen to several podcasts, and there's a really good one called To the Best of Our Knowledge. They talked about plants and plants' ability to communicate with each other. It's a weird thing. And I don't know all the science behind it, but it has to do with essentially molecular exchange at the level of the roots. So it's almost like there's something sentient going on there. I don't know that there is or not. Science will probably never be able to prove that because we can't even figure out what consciousness is. But I think that's something that's missing and could have been included. I understand for game balance, yada, yada, yada. I get that. But I would have liked to have seen some mental mutations because try to think like a tree and put yourself in that position as a player. That could be a lot of fun.
I would if I could.
Okay, you're going to the timeout chair now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to rebut. I actually like that they don't have mental mutations for 2 reasons. One, I think it separates them. It makes them fundamentally different from Manimals and Mutants. And 2, I think that there is a hidden, what would it be? The eighth hidden class of Mutant Crawl Classics, the Shroomer class, which is mutant mushrooms. And mutant mushrooms only gain mental mutations, but not physical. So they're a little bit like leaning towards like a wizard because they get like these crazy mental mutations.
I like it
but
too.
They don't get like, You know,
So it's like a psionic mushroom.
exactly. And the thing is, so
That's good.
the molecular communication thing you were talking about, Forrest, that's actually that's largely facilitated by the mycelium of fungal colonies. So
Right,
really, if there is sort of like nature's brain, it's the fungus less so than the trees.
The fungus among us.
Exactly.
I like shroomers. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't necessarily. I mean, I could do it, but I think somebody from the community should do it and post it somewhere, and then we can review it and maybe have them on. That would be fun.
Look at that.
Boy, if Pierre Tramp suddenly dies in your campaign, I know what I'm asking to play.
Well, that we could certainly have that discussion. Absolutely. The other thing I don't think works about Plantients is just the fact that like a fern and a cactus are not in any way different from each other. I think it's a little bit less problematic because we as human beings don't identify with plants the same way we identify with animals. And of course plants in our world are not motile. They don't do things. So like when it comes to, knowing what kind of quote unquote natural abilities a fern should have versus a cactus versus a shrubbery, that it doesn't come to us as instinctively as the difference between, say, a bird and a bear.
Fair.
True.
What about you, Jim? What do you think does not work?
Well, you guys kind of took what I was going to say. Not you guys. I'm sorry. Just Forrest. I think that, you get 1d3 physical mutations and you have to share your luck with people. What do you really get? I mean,
Thorns.
That's the challenge. There's not a lot for you. And then no one's going to take you seriously because, you're a walking cactus.
Maybe.
Can I share something quick about that?
Yeah.
So the very first time I played Mutant Crawl Classics, the very first time, was Museum at the End of Time with Jim Wampler running it at Gamehole Con a few years back. And I bring snacks with me because I just like to have something handy to eat. And so he's handing out characters, and we actually randomly picked characters out of a pile. And so I picked my 3 0 levels, and one of them happened to be a mutant banana tree. And guess what I had in my bag?
A banana?
A figure, yes, a banana. That was my figure for the game.
Nice.
It was great synchronicity.
That is pretty awesome, actually.
That's how it all started. Was with this bruised banana on the table. I said, "There's my figure."
Oh, you started off
There
bruised? You already took damage?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I've been damaged for a long time, actually, Mark. So.
Nice.
So what are some examples in fiction then?
Well, I think Forrest already mentioned Ents from Lord of the Rings. Treebeard being, the one we got to know. I had the only other one I could think of was Audrey Jr., which is the plant from the Little Shop of Horrors musical.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Audrey Jr. or Audrey 2?
It depends on whether you're talking about like the original movie or the original play or the remake play or the remake movie, but it's either Audrey Jr. or Audrey 2.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I went to the original movie as my source and it said Audrey Jr.
Junior, yep.
All I have to say is, I am Groot.
Yes, you are.
So because that's freaking Groot. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, no.
Plantients are Groot. Groots are Plantients. There you go.
I'm disappointed I didn't think of that myself.
That's all, I was just thrilled no one else said it. Forrest.
So what you don't see here is that James put something in the notes saying he felt bad for me for having to come up with one after those were taken. But I actually came up with 3.
Wow.
Now, the first one is kind of a stretch, but the Whomping Willow in Harry Potter, kind of sentient plant thing. Couldn't move on its roots, but still, it had a mind of its own for sure. Another one comes from comic books, and those old school comic readers will remember Swamp Thing. It was basically a humanoid mass of vegetable material. Anyway, more complicated than that, but still. And then the last one, and one of my favorites, is the Mushroom Man from the Finnish movie Jack Frost, which was one of the best Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes ever. If you haven't seen Jack Frost, MST3K, you should definitely go watch it. The Mushroom Man makes very limited appearances in there, but he's there.
So he's a shroomer.
He's technically, I think he's an elf with a mushroom for a top of his head or something. I can't remember exactly, but really it is one of the best MST3K episodes ever. Just, they were on a roll and good stuff.
See, now I want to play a mushroom plantient comedian named Amy Schumer.
Okay, it's your turn for the timeout chair now.
All right. Shall we move on to the mutagenesis, or do we have anything else to say?
Oh, let's please move on to the mutagenesis.
Oh, man.
Mutagenesis.
Welcome to the Mutagenesis. This is where we try to take something from media or other game systems, etc., and take a stab at converting them for MCC RPG use. So, James, what do you have for your mutagenesis this time?
All right, so I have recently discovered a grocery store called Wegmans, which is, I don't know if that's national or just here in Philadelphia. You guys have those out your way?
It's national.
I have
Is
one,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's glorious because it's kind of like, I don't know, a Whole Foods on steroids. So there's lots of stuff there. It's pretty cool, especially since I have a very select diet. And they had something there called like flaxseed milk. I think it's what it's called, right? You guys tried that before?
No, it sounds disgusting.
I've heard of almond milk. I've never heard of flaxseed milk.
I drink almond milk. But not
Yeah, well,
flaxseed.
I drink almond milk and I drink coconut milk. But flaxseed milk, it had like 8 grams of protein. And I thought, I'm going to try that. And I really enjoyed it. So I came up with something called Plantient milk. So it's from the rare hops Plantient subtype, which isn't on the list. I don't think there's no hops plant, right? No hops
I don't think so.
So Plantient milk is a wonderful beverage that brings levity just about any post-apocalyptic engagement. I was writing this last night. I was past the first beer writing this one. Okay.
Good tell.
One pint of Plantient milk imbibed by any pure strain human has the following effects: plus 2 dice steps to personality checks for 1 hour, so a D30. Minus 1 dice steps to will saving throws for 2 hours. Minus 1 reflex dice steps for 2 hours. Pretty mild. Well, Plantient milk has a crazy effect on manimals, to the point that most hops plantients have gone extinct due to manimal over-harvesting. So when they drink Plantient milk, they get plus 1 dice step to strength checks and fortitude saves for an hour, plus 1 dice step to attack rolls while actively drinking, and they can consume 1 pint in 1d3 rounds and a maximum of 1 pint per turn, minus 2 dice steps to will saves and minus 1 dice step to reflex saves while drinking. So, drunken manimal rage.
So, is there going to be a catnip plantient next week?
Well, the way I was thinking of it, I mean, not that I get my dog drunk, because I don't, but like I was just thinking of like how crazy he gets like when I come home at night and he's like freaking out all over the place. So, I mean, I just imagine if I got my dog drunk, he'd be like that, but like times 10.
And clumsy.
Well, I feel like dogs are naturally clumsy when they're not being unnaturally graceful. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, they kind of act drunk most of the time, don't they? I mean,
Mine does.
yeah.
Mark, what do you got?
All right, so I have a replacement Manimal subtype table. So on page 20 is table 1-7, which is the Manimal subtype. You roll that when you roll up your level zeros, and it tells you like whether you're a primate or a feline or whatnot, and it gives you your animal like sort of broad family and then your specific sort of like subspecies. And what I did, so to sort of address Dan's concerns without inventing new rules or rewriting the entire, Manimal class, I said, all right, well, what's the big thing that, makes each animal feel like their own animal? And so I tried to distill that. And so I have a new table, which obviously I'm not going to read the whole thing because that would be boring because it's like 30 something, it's long, but I'll give you a couple of examples here, and I will post this on my blog immediately when the episode goes live, whenever that is, probably sometime in August. But like as an example here, you roll and you get a 6 to an 8, and so you get a feline, and you roll a d4, and you could be a lion, a tiger, a cheetah, or a panther. And all felines, in place of their first physical mutation, they automatically get heightened agility because cats are graceful.
Yeah.
Right. So if you end up with a feline, you're going to have heightened agility no matter what. Going down the list, so amphibians, you get to roll a d3, you get like a frog, a toad, a salamander. So what I had written earlier today when I finished this up was all amphibians receive domination instead of their random mental mutation because Hypnotoad.
Mm-hmm. All glory to the Hypnotoad.
Exactly. But I was thinking about it and I'm like, you know what? I should give all salamanders pyrokinesis because salamanders, from the mythical standpoint. And then I got to figure out like what the heck frogs should have. So like toads get domination and salamanders get pyrokinesis, and I don't know about frogs. All birds get wings, plain and simple. Like if you're a bird, you get wings, you can fly, boom, that solves that problem. Insects, depending on what type of insect you are, you either get wings or you get carapace. I thought about going with just shorter, but that felt like the wrong thing because all bugs are, all insects are small, but that isn't really what differentiates them. It's like the presence of other things, wings and their armor and whatnot.
Exoskeleton.
I also added the subtype of serpents. So king cobra, python, boa constrictor, and rattlesnake, and all serpents get plasticity because I was like, that's the closest thing to sort of like being snake-like.
Sure.
And the subtype of lizards, which includes chameleons, geckos, Komodo dragons, Gila monsters, iguanas, and turtles or tortoises. And if you roll a serpent, you get regeneration in place of your first physical mutation, unless you're a chameleon, in which case you get called holographic skin, or you're a turtle, in which case you get carapace. And so this table will hopefully allow like some degree of like, I rolled this animal and one of the mutations I get because of that feels like something that animal should have. So this will go live on my blog and I'll share it to the Google Plus group and on Twitter and whatnot when this episode goes live or shortly thereafter.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds very cool. I like it.
I hope it works. Let's put it that way.
I'm sure it will.
Forrest, what do you got?
All right. So this mutagenesis for me is going to be a little bit different because this isn't a thing or an item or a monster. It's really more of a consideration or an op-ed piece or a public service announcement more than anything. I was thinking about, well, you'll hear. Ask yourself this question. Self, what happens when you wear someone else's skin?
Oh, no.
Oh, jeez.
Now, of course, any being in their right mind will want to wear armor of some type. You'd be dumb not to use all the resources at your disposal in the dangerous world of Terra AD. Now, said armor sometimes comes in the form of someone else's skin. So wearing a fur cloak, for example, gives you +2 to your AC. An antler hood gives you +1. There aren't rules for plant fiber armor like there was back in Gamma World First Edition, but I'd guess that it's probably give a +2 to the AC or something thereabout. And that's how I'd rule it anyway. But what happens when you run into Bambi's mutated father while wearing an antler hood? Or you run into Groot while wearing his cousin's skin? I'll present my thoughts in the form of rhetorical questions and maybe some poorly thought out answers, which all my answers are poorly thought out. What would archaic alignments think when encountering skin wearers? The Atomic Equinox is probably not going to let you into their Green Thumb Club. You probably won't get attacked outright by the Chosen Zoo, but you will be shunned like a cloud of fleas. Stupid elements within the Gene Police, and don't laugh because their ancestors are among us right now, could mistake you for a mutant, or worse yet, some horrible crossbreed between man and plant or man and animal. That boy ain't right, I can hear them saying. How would this affect AI recognition? What if you're wearing bark and you encounter a logging robot? Or what if you're wearing fur and run into a veterinary robot? Even a household bot might force you to the kitty litter box. Now, that Cactaceae rex over there wants to eat you anyway, but when it realizes you're wearing the husk of its dead cousin, do you think it's going to think any better of you? Or is it just going to be that much more focused on eating you first? And what if those devil ant-men are descended from carpenter ants? They're going to kill you regardless, we get that, but that slab of mahogany on your torso looks mighty good eating. Guess who just became the appetizer? What about patron AI interactions? Yes, Gaia looks to bring balance back to nature, but does that mean that wearing some cute little furry critter's skin is a good idea or a bad idea? Should you have so much power in deciding what is and isn't in balance? Are you willing to chance Gaia's disapproval? So sure, protect yourself, wrap yourself up in Ensign aardvarks, but think very carefully about the downsides if you are planning on using, quote, natural armor. And judges, give ample opportunity for your players to use such armor. Be generous. And let the inhabitants of Terra AD decide whether or not it's such a good idea to dress yourself in someone else's skin. We're itching to see how it all works out. As the ancient ones used to say, skin, it keeps your guts in, but we're all red on the inside, except Plantients. They're green on the inside, and if you think about that too long, that's just gross.
Oh, man, that is messed up, dude. That said,
that's all I got.
So the past two adventures in the monthly game have featured Tibar, and both Craig and I think Andy for sure, and I think Craig like cut off some feet or something. I'm not exactly sure. They've been like Andy has festooned his two-handed weapon with Tibar ears, right? So it's like,
oh God.
So it's like every time they see you guys, they see a bunch of dudes, and like now there's like one token Plantient and one token Manimal. And then there's Andy, who's like a dude who looks like he's like wearing super jacked up armor with this massive warhammer that's like got a row of Tibar ears hanging off the end of it.
Yeah, somebody's girlfriend's ear.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've already sort of done this for non-armor elements, but you bring up a very good point, especially the AI recognition one. Like, if you're wearing an antler hood, like, does that affect AI recognition? Like, it might.
Mm-hmm. You got to think about these things.
Yeah, the AI might be like, I don't understand what is going on, or it might be like, that's a stupid hat.
Or it might be like, oh, look, something's growing on that human that shouldn't be there. Let me cut it off.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the assault on Sky High Tower, there was a gardening robot that would selectively attack Plantients first.
Yep.
And so I can see, yeah, if you're wearing something like bark armor, that could be dangerous. So this does definitely make sense, and it's not something that I necessarily consciously thought about before. So yeah, I like this.
It could be fun for the judge at least.
Yep.
Yeah, usually.
All right, well, I think let's take us out here.
All
Take
right.
it home.
Okay, so we have some announcements here. We have Save Against Fear coming up in October 12 to 14, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania Mall. That is near Mr. Jim. New con to explore. PAX Unplugged is the weekend of November 30 to December 2nd at the Philadelphia Convention Center. Both James and I will be in attendance. And Gamehole Con, November 8th to 11th. Forrest will be in attendance and running Killer of Giants for potentially the last time at a con.
Mm-hmm.
Last time.
Yeah, last time. That's always a little sad. On the other hand, that means that GaryCon will be playtesting the new thing.
Oh, yeah.
All right. In MCC news, Evil of the Ancients, a level 3 adventure by Michael Curtis, will be premiering at Gen Con. And that has a pretty wicked-looking cover. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that cover looks pretty awesome.
It's awesome, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the second printing of the MCC core books is at the printer, and they are optimistic that they'll have them at Gen Con, including a new foil cover. They didn't talk about that much, but I'm going to guess a new color instead of green. I'm hoping for, like, nuclear orange. Oh.
I think that was the second in the voting initially, if I remember right.
Yeah, so if they've got one, I might pick one up at Gen Con. We'll see. You can contact us. Twitter, we are at Glowburn. Our email is glowburnpodcast@gmail.com. and of course the Google Plus community, Glowburn community. You can find me at InspStrikes on Twitter, or you can just search for my name, Mark Plord. My blog is inspstrikes.blogspot.com, or I am on the Google Plus in many communities. Jim, what about you?
I'm over at I Live for Crits, or on Twitter, or livingforcrits.com, number 4. Like, not there's a number 4 after that, just use a 4 instead of a 4. You know? So it's number 4 instead of F-O-R or F-O-R-E.
So living number 4 crits.
Yeah, but don't spell out number either.
I'm not confused at all. Not at all.
Wait till you try to pronounce your own last name, Forrest.
Oh, I have to fail. So you can reach me on Twitter at ForrestAguirre. That's ForrestAguirre, exactly, spelled exactly like it sounds. And my website is at forrestaguirre.blogspot.com.
So special thanks and credits to our shaman of intros, outros, and bumpers, Bob the Voice Brinkman. Our patron AI of audiovisual engineering, Hector the Missile Cruz, recently stolen by Spellburn. We'll have to battle to get him back. Our creative advisors are XXX strong Google community, which is currently 355 strong / XXX strong.
XXX.
368, actually.
All right, that I only read what's here. That's how we got to the XXX strong in the beginning, in the first place. Okay, so I only read what's in front of my face. All right,
It says 368.
currently 368 strong. Our intro outro song is by the group Chronox off the Voyager album, and it's Juno. And to take us out, I'm just gonna say, in these times of hardship, just remember, we are Groot.
And I say smoke them if you grow them, but only if it's legal in your state.
I'm just gonna say, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Heroes on the Half Show.
Ninja Turtles.
Turtle power.
Turtle power.
Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.
Night.
Ariel, Ookla, ride!
Blood of your enemy makes you stronger.
This has been a Hectophonic production.
The gun is good, the gun is good, the gun is good, the gun is good,
Like that movie Thanksgiving, where the turkey puts a human face on its face and pretends it's, that woman's father.